Hey there, and welcome back to Motivational Enhancement Unit 1, Group 7, part of the Quickstart Guide for Recovery from Addiction and Co-occurring Disorders by Dr. Dawn-Elise Snipes. You have so far learned about physical motivation, how something makes you feel better physically, affective motivation, how it makes you feel better emotionally, cognitive motivation, how it makes sense that recovery or behavior change will help you be the person that you want to be. Environmental motivation, looking around your environment at things that may trigger relapse, but also things that can help you remember to do your recovery activities and all of the reasons it's important to continue to put one foot in front of the other. Finally, we're going to talk about relationship or relational motivation. This encompasses things that increase not only other people's approval of you and improves your relationships with them, but increases your approval of yourself and your acceptance of yourself. Think about how the new behavior, how recovery is going to increase your self-acceptance and self-approval. And also think about how recovery is going to help you get acceptance and approval from other people that you truly love and care about. It's important to spend time doing that, recognizing that recovery is going to help you feel better about yourself, which is going to improve your relationships a ton. Because when we feel better about ourselves, then we are more able to be emotionally available to other people because we don't feel threatened and scared all the time. Spend a few minutes now thinking about how addiction or your old behaviors were in opposition to your self-concept. How did it keep you from being the person that you wanted to be? How did depression keep you from being the person you wanted to be, or anxiety? Identify all of the ways that your addiction, your depression, your anxiety, your physical health issues, whatever they are, identify how those keep you from being the person that you want to be. So that looks at how the old behavior, the addiction or the depression or anxiety, kept you from accepting yourself. The next thing I want you to think about is how the old behaviors led to rejection or isolation from other people. How did it cause rifts in your relationships? How did it cause stress or tension in your relationships? Write all of those things down. These are things that are going to be important to go back and look at when your motivation starts to wane a little bit, to remember, oh yeah, it really was that bad. Now we're going to turn our attention for a few minutes to how the addiction or the old behavior was socially rewarding. A lot of times in addiction, we find a peer group that we use with. We find a peer group that is supportive of our addictive behaviors. So that can be socially rewarding. If other people in our life are rejecting us, these people may be accepting. Sometimes people use addictive behaviors, use substances in order to relax, to help deal with their social anxiety so they can, quote, have more fun, which is another way that addiction can be socially rewarding. Think about all of the ways that your addictive behaviors were rewarding in your social life. And guess what? 3 alternate ways that you could meet that same end. So if addiction helped you be more confident and deal with your social anxiety at parties and in social situations, what else could you do instead so you don't have to use before you go into social situations? This may be something you need to talk about with your sponsor or your therapist, but it is going to be important to identify ways to make that happen. And finally, it's important to recognize that your new behaviors, your recovery, may cause you rejection from other people. Not everybody is going to be happy that you are in recovery. Primarily those people you used to use with who are not yet ready themselves to experience recovery. How are you going to feel about that when those people don't want to change because you want them to? How are you going to feel about that when they are still going out and partying and you can't do that anymore? And how are you going to deal with it? Wrap this section up by thinking about the ways that your relationships and self-esteem caused relapses in the past. What relationships triggered relapses? And it could be relationships with your significant others that are conflictual for some reason. It doesn't have to be necessarily relationships with somebody who uses. But it's important to start recognizing ways that relationships may have triggered relapses in the past. It's also important to recognize ways that your self-esteem, if you didn't feel good about yourself, you may have tried to get a little dose of liquid courage in order to engage in relationships. So your addiction may have, your low self-esteem may have triggered addictive behaviors. Likewise, your addiction probably took its toll on your self-esteem, so it was a downward cycle all the way. It's important to recognize how your addiction impacted your relationship with yourself, your relationship with others, and how your relationship with others could have triggered addiction. And last but not least, thinking about the way that your self-esteem has triggered anxiety and depression. How does your self-esteem relate to your anxiety symptoms and your feelings of depression? How do your relationships relate to your feelings of anxiety and depression? And how have anxiety and depression impacted your relationships? A lot of times, when I'm going through a major depressive episode, which thankfully doesn't happen that much anymore, but when it happens, I don't have a lot of energy. I don't want to spend time with people. I feel guilty that I don't want to spend time with people, but I don't want to spend time with people. And it's important to recognize how everything interacts with one another, because when I'm depressed, I push people away, and that tends to cause problems in those relationships. So recognizing how one causes the other and vice versa is really important in this early recovery process, so you can see the scope of things and really identify what things that you need to address for your recovery, because the things that trigger your addiction may not be the same as what triggers your best friend's addiction.